my second talk at DITA World, and thank you Adobe for having me in this DITA conference. It's a pleasure to speak at this great Adobe event today. Let's talk about API documentation and how we at CRX.net decouple software development from software documentation processes and releases. If you joined my keynote yesterday, where I told you about how important it is to build content bridges with standardized interfaces, today you will see how we at CRX.net walk the talk and how we let content flow like water in practice. My name is Markus Wiedenmaier. I'm CEO at CRX.net. We provide technology for automation of technical documentation processes. We believe that information must not be buried in silos, in proprietary systems, but must find its way to users in linked and structured way. That's why we have developed solutions that make this possible. With our modular data services, we integrate information and systems. We ensure that data becomes information and information becomes knowledge. We integrate any kind of inputs, formats, or any systems to let content flow. We have developed systems to let content flow where it is needed in specific situations. Today we talk about what is the Open API specification, why writing is not necessarily the job of developers. We talk about some basics about data reuse mechanisms and especially about conrep-push, the most unknown and underestimated feature in data. Then let's see how we at CRX.net decouple development and documentation processes and how this approach can look like in Adobe Experience Manager. First, let's see what the Open API is. And when we are talking about APIs today, we are talking about REST APIs. REST stands for Representational State Transfer. And it is a software architecture, a concept for distributed systems using the HTTP protocol. OpenAPI is a standard maintained by the OpenAPI initiative. It is a collaboration project of the Linux Foundation. It was getting a single project in 2016. And it previously was part of the Swagger framework. It is a description format for API services in an open and vendor-neutral way. Talking about API in this case means APIs of RESTful services. Open API specification is programming language agnostic, and clients can understand and consume services without knowledge of their implementation. Usually, exchange format is JSON when we are talking about connection between services. And there are a lot of implementations available, like Swagger, the most famous implementation available, where code and documentation is built and published automatically. Let's take our CRX IDS Content API as a sample. CRX IDS is a cloud system providing content as a service based on the German TCOM standard IRRDS. This is such API data looks like in JSON representation, which is generated automatically from our source code. So we have information about the version of the specification, information about the API itself, the root URL to access the API, information about certain API endpoints, and information about certain authorization modes. Further, we see information about a certain endpoint, information about the parameters of this endpoint, and information about the response the endpoint delivers after executions. So it's the result of the request. And we find a lot of descriptions for any entity in our API which were written by developers. Descriptions of endpoints are delivered automatically to the outside within our daily build process. Here we see how this looks like. Written in C#, our main programming language for the endpoint IRRDS information units. And here we see how this looks like for a single parameter. It's the embed parameter within the IRRDS information unit endpoint. We refer to this parameter in our further example. Beside the machine-readable JSON representation, we also get the human-readable HTML. And this is how the process looks like to generate machine and human-readable content automatically from source code. In daily build processes, an intermediate format, in our case it's XML, is generated. This XML is used by the integrated Swagger component, and Swagger renders this data to JSON and HTML depending on the client which is requesting a certain format. Great, developer teams, leaders would say. Developers write documentation when they are writing their code. Both go together in one. Not much additional effort, right? Let's see why it's not a good idea to let two jobs or two rows done by one single person. To put it in advance, there are developers who are writing good documentation, of course. But I want to target this generality of developers. To be clear, I think you would not agree in general when I would say technical writers are good developers, right? So let's see why developers should not write end-user documentation, in my opinion. Developers should not write because they are paid for developing cool features in our software. They are not getting paid for writing documentation at first. Developers have poor skills in writing end-user documentation, in general at least. And they are too deep into their problem domain. I think that's the most important point here, as it's very hard to get out to another perspective. And what is cool for developers is not even cool for others, right? Due to the source code comments are not useful for end users as we are too deep in developers' domain. So when we want to have good documentation, let even here do professionals their job. People who have learned what they are doing. And we learned that great content is of great value, a value which provides great user experience. We don't want mistakes in documentation lead to new software releases just because there are a bug in the documentation, or even worse, to delay our software release. Guess what will win when it comes down to a decision? But of course, this doesn't mean that developers are not responsible to provide information in a written form. They are responsible to act as digital information providers. Digital is important here. as we want to exchange information not in a meeting. Information must flow through our systems. So let's see how we can bring both worlds together in a decoupled way. But let's go one step back and let's bring data reuse mechanism back to our mind. When we are talking about data and reuse, reuse is the reason why we are all using data, isn't it? We have following options to reuse content. We have key ref mechanisms to support content variables. We have conref mechanism to reuse content fragments. We have key ref mechanisms to reuse variable content fragments. And we have conref push, the mechanism which is key to success today in our topic here. The key to success in our approach is conref push mechanism. One of the most unknown and most underestimated features in data, I think. What is conref push? It's simple. It's just the opposite way of reusing content. It is overwriting our standard documentation in custom scenarios. But what is conrefing about? The normal way we are reusing content in most cases. Let's see first how conrefing works. When we use conref, we build up a warehouse which contains reusable content like warnings, for example. Warehouse sounds very complex at this point, but you could imagine simply as a topic containing hazard statements. And this is just referenced in a data map. This data map represents our manual for product A, where we have product-specific, topic-oriented content. When we need a warning which is stored in our reuse warehouse, we simply refer to this warning and add a reference to it. And this way we ensure data integrity and save costs for redundant content. An approach that saves efforts and money in translation processes at the very latest. Then we create a second manual for product B, which is completely different to product A. But at some points, we need same content. In this case, we reuse the same hazard statement and reference it to the second documentation. This is very simple to understand, I think. Conrefing just means to refer to some content which is stored and maintained somewhere else. As I told you with conref push, we need to switch our kind of thinking by 180 degrees. Let's think this way. We are developing a standard product, which is shipped to our customers out of the box. And so this product comes with a standard documentation. Take FrameMaker, RoboHelp, or cloud systems like AEM or Xerox.net as an example. Have a look at this documentation and you know what I'm talking about. But systems like AEM or even Xerox.net are highly customizable to fit customers' specific needs. They can be extended with other features to integrate in your company's infrastructure. So vendors have partners to implement such systems in a highly complex project. This project needs documentation as well. But no one wants to rewrite standard content for standard use cases again. It's also not a good idea to ship two documentations to customers and let the user decide where to find the right content. as this will give a very bad user experience. Users nowadays expect one documentation for their certain system. Therefore, project team wants to replace existing content if part of a topic describes different in a situation. And they want to extend existing content if there is more to say, as the standard documentation explains. To solve this, project team creates a data map for their project-specific documentation. Standard data map is referenced in the project. Next, we add one or more empty reuse topics to our project map. This topic is where conref push mechanism happens, where we add new or overwrite existing standard content. As you see, our project documentation will have project-specific areas, which should be replaced or should be extended. So we want to reuse our complete standard documentation and extend or replace what does not fit in this certain project context. This is what conref push does. It replaces or extends content in a project documentation. If we want to extend a standard description, we conref the section from the standard documentation in our reuse topic. After that, we add an attribute con action to write content which is added before or after this section. And we add a con action attribute with a value replace to override certain section with project-specific content. And now let's assume for our further discussions in this sessions about OpenAPI documentation, the developer documentation is our standard documentation and end user documentation is project documentation. And now, after we have got the basics of reusing content with data, now let's talk about the process, as even automation is our topic. Within our daily build processes, Swagger documentation is updated on our server. Xerox.net fetches the JSON files and converts the structured data to data. A map with a lot of topics for each endpoint is generated. And data skeletons, our reuse topics, are generated. These reuse topics now conref descriptions from API our developers have written. As we want to override this developer content, an attribute con action with value replace is added. This automatic generated content is imported to AEM. And Regine, our technical writer, can now override descriptions created by developers to provide great and high quality end user documentation. Let's see how the result looks like after data files are imported in IEM. This is the data map we generated from the JSON file automatically. You see the reuse topic conrefing description of the embed parameter in the IRRDS information units endpoint written by our developers, which is overwritten by Regine, our technical writer. This is the data map which is automatically generated. And this is our standard documentation, if you remember. It also contains reuse topic to replace or add content with conref push mechanism. And here is our complete project documentation. Documentation containing samples, use cases, and the API descriptions. And the cool thing here is that we can directly refer to API descriptions within our use case documentation. This result is our product standard documentation, which can even be reused in real projects to document project-specific things without losing big value of the standard. Within the attribute inspector, you see that we conref developer documentation, which was originally comments in source code, as you remember. And in this specific case, we always want to replace comments written by the developers. So we set connection attribute to push replace. Here you see the original comment from our source code our developers have written. And this is the changes really made to fit end users' needs. Well structured and well written. And the best thing is, all is connected with developer source code, but it's decoupled, as Regine can correct things in documentation without the need of changing the source code, and without the requirement of new builds just because there are bugs in the documentation. And by the way, this all works in any XML data environments which supports conref push mechanisms. And now let's generate some outputs to PDF and Data Open Toolkit standard. To HTML5, even with the Data OT standard. And of course, as we are in AEM, we publish to AEM sites. And here we go. Publishing process takes a while as we have a lot of data. We have about 400 single topics which are conrefed and connected with each other. Most of them are automatically generated from our JSON document we get from Swagger. We have our end user documentation as our end users expects it in PDF. You see the description for the embed parameter Regine has overwritten before. It's not the developer's comment anymore. As end users expect this in HTML5 output as well, of course. Same overwritten content is available here. No additional effort. Of course, publishing this content from AEM also works with SprayMaker Publishing Server, which looks much nicer in the result, of course. And this is how the result looks like in AEM sites. As you can see, if you deal with standards and use features these standards provide out of the box, output is no longer a problem. And via a smart process design, editorial offered and communication is reduced to a minimum in a project-specific environment. All participants are connected yet decoupled and can focus on their job. But I think there's something still missing, and this is getting pretty cool. Of course, our Swagger documentation needs to get updated as well. And this is where we started, right? And this is what we or our users expect. High quality content, even in open API documentation. What do we need to do to get this stuff working, to get this content back to the Swagger HTML file? No, we don't update our source code, of course. You remember we want to decouple releases for development and technical documentation. And this is what we did so far. We converted OpenAPI JSON files to data. We replaced some developer descriptions by technical writers in AEM. And then we published this great value content to HTML5, PDF, and AEM sites. Now let's publish this content back to the Cerex.net IDS Content API. You remember the system with an API and its documentation we used today in this presentation. Now simply extend Swagger UI with some JavaScripts which connect to the Cerex.net API and fetches the descriptions from the Information Units API endpoint. How could you call this? Self-document system? This is just how content as a service should work. It should provide information to whomever content needs and let them integrate your content. With some simple JavaScripts, we can override Swagger standard descriptions with the content created by a team of technical writers, just on demand. As soon as technical writers update the documentation and publish to Cerex.net IDS, documentation in Swagger is up to date without the need of changes in source code. Developers and writers are working together, but their processes and releases are decoupled from each other. By the way, this all doesn't mean developers shouldn't care anymore about. Of course, they should, as they have to provide necessary information via an organizational and technical interface. So let's summarize. Let's use the skills of developers and technical writers. Let's decouple software development and software documentation, releases and processes. Let us use standards with features which are there for so many years. And let's start automation and integration of content. You find a lot of information about this and other stuff on our blog. Even some topics about conref and conref push. And now follow us on social media. We are happy to get in touch with you and continue our discussion. Now in the chat room or later on the social networks. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of this great conference. Thank you very much.